A woman who truly respects herself carries a power that doesn't need to be shouted. It is not something she wears on her sleeve. It is something she wears in her posture, in her decisions, and in the quiet certainty of her presence. Respect is the foundation upon which all healthy relationships are built. When a woman holds herself in high regard, she is not arrogant, she is aligned. She understands her value without needing others to validate it. And because of this, people, especially men, are drawn to her, not because she seeks approval, but because she embodies a standard that commands it. Through the park, respecting oneself means knowing when to say yes, but more importantly, when to say no. Running through park, it means understanding your worth so deeply that you refuse to enter in situations, people, or environments that drain your energy or blur your boundaries. It is not about being cold or distant. It is about being clear, running through the park. When a woman has self-respect, she doesn't over-explain her decisions, she doesn't beg to be chose, and she certainly doesn't chase what runs. She moves with dignity, even when the world tests her. That kind of strength makes others pause, running through the park. That kind of discipline makes others listen. This inner respect manifests in many ways: how she speaks about herself, how she walks into a room, how she treats her time and energy. She doesn't apologize for taking up space. She doesn't minimize her needs. Through the park, she doesn't settle for half effort or half love, because she knows that when she settles for less than she deserves, teaches others it's acceptable to give her less. And she refuses to be a participant in her own devaluation. This kind of woman understands that her value is not negotiable. It's not something up for discussion or compromise. A woman with self-respect also doesn't try to fit into molds that don't suit her. She knows she wasn't created to be convenient or small. She lives authentically, and while not everyone may approve, she doesn't need them to. Her focus is not on being liked, it is on being true. Through the park, she knows that being liked by everyone often requires becoming no one, and she refuses to shrink herself to please the world. What men find profoundly compelling in such a woman is not just her beauty or charm, but her unshakable inner compass. She walks away when she must. She speaks up when she needs to, and she holds her peace when it serves her. There's no performance, just presence. No desperation, just direction. Men deeply respect a woman who respects herself because it signals that she will not allow herself to be treated as an afterthought. It's the standard for the relationship, not by force, but by example. And in doing so, she doesn't just inspire admiration, she earns loyalty. Her self-respect becomes the mirror through which others are forced to examine their own behavior. And that mirror, once seen, cannot be unseen. Emotional discipline is one of the most underestimated forms of power. In a world that encourages impulsive reactions, constant venting, and emotional outbursts, the woman who can pause, breathe, and respond with clarity stands apart. She doesn't suppress her feelings. She refuses to let them control her. That difference is everything. She is not cold or disconnected. On the contrary, she feels deeply, but her strength lies in her ability to hold space for her emotions without letting them dominate her words or actions. This self-mastery earns a quiet kind of respect, especially from men who value emotional safety and maturity. When life gets hard, when relationships are tested, when misunderstandings arise, it's the emotionally disciplined woman who becomes the calm in the storm, running through the park. She is the one who doesn't yell to be heard, doesn't blame to feel powerful, and doesn't retaliate to protect her ego. She understands that true power is not in controlling others, but in mastering herself. That's why her presence brings peace, not pressure. She brings stability, not chaos. And in doing so, she becomes a safe space, not just for others, but for herself. This level of discipline requires intentional effort. It means learning when to speak and when to stay silent. It means recognizing triggers and not allowing them to hijack the moment. It means processing hurt without projecting it. A woman doesn't make assumptions, she asks questions. She doesn't operate from insecurity, she stands in confidence. And when she disagrees, so respectfully, because she knows that disagreement doesn't mean disrespect, and control doesn't mean connection. For men, this emotional steadiness is magnetic. In relationships, men often feel judged not for their actions, but for how they make a woman feel in the moment. When a woman can manage her emotional waves with grace and composure, creates space for honest, vulnerable connection. It removes the fear of walking on eggshells. It replaces tension with trust. And trust is the foundation of deep respect. The emotionally disciplined woman isn't passive, she's powerful. The park, she's not quiet because she's weak, but because she understands the strength in choosing her words. She's not withholding, she's wise, running the park. She knows that not every emotion deserves expression and not every conflict needs escalation. This doesn't mean she tolerates disrespect. On the contrary, it means she addresses it with calm strength, not with chaos. Such a woman brings presence to the room. People feel seen, heard, and understood in her presence. Not because she agrees with everything running through the park, but because she brings balance to everything. She doesn't need to dominate a conversation to lead it. She doesn't need to win every argument to earn respect. Her power is subtle, but deeply felt. In the end, men deeply respect the woman who doesn't just feel deeply, but who chooses to manage her emotions with intention through the park. Because emotional discipline is not a restriction. It is a reflection of inner maturity running through the park, and that maturity builds a kind of trust that no beauty or charm alone can ever replace. Purposeful communication is one of the most refined skills a woman can develop, and it holds immense power in shaping the way she is perceived and respected. Communication is more than words. It's tone, timing, body, language, and energy. A woman who communicates with clarity, intention, and grace leaves no room for confusion or manipulation. She speaks not to dominate, but to connect. She doesn't use silence as a weapon or words as armor. Instead, she speaks from a place of alignment with her values, and that alignment resonates deeply with others, especially men. When a woman communicates purposefully, she doesn't beat around the bush or hide behind sarcasm and passive aggressiveness. She is direct, but never disrespectful. She knows how to express her needs without demanding. She asks for what she wants with confidence, not desperation, and she listens, not just to respond, but to understand. This kind of presence in communication is rare and refreshing. It tells people, I am here, I am aware, and I value this exchange. Men in particular are drawn to this quality because it removes unnecessary drama. It removes the guessing games and emotional traps that so often sabotage healthy connection. A woman who says what she means and means what she says creates emotional safety. There is no manipulation, no guilt trips, and no emotional roller coasters. Instead, there is trust. And trust fosters admiration. Purposeful communication also means knowing when not to speak. Through the park, a woman of wisdom understands the weight of her words. She doesn't need to always get the last word or prove her point. She knows that silence can often speak louder than noise. She uses words to uplift, to bring clarity, to set boundaries, not to attack, belittle, or control. This maturity in communication reflects a deeper maturity of character, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Even in conflict, her communication holds strength. She doesn't resort to insults or emotional outbursts. She stays rooted, even when triggered. Seeing through the park, she holds space for her emotions while still holding respect for the other person. Running through the park. This kind of balanced communication doesn't just solve problems, it prevents them. Because when two people feel heard and valued, they don't fight to win, they fight to understand. That's where real connection begins. It's also important to note that purposeful communication isn't about being perfect. It's about being real through the park. It's about being honest with oneself and others. It's about saying, I don't know, when needed, or I need time to think, or that hurt me, but I want to work through it. Vulnerability, when delivered with intention, doesn't make a woman weak, it makes her powerful. It invites truth into the space and makes growth possible. In the end, men deeply respect a woman who communicates with intention because it shows emotional intelligence, self-respect, and clarity. It shows that she values her words and the connection enough to speak with care. And in a noisy world full of empty talk, the woman who speaks with purpose becomes unforgettable. Grace paired with strength is one of the most powerful combinations a woman can embody. Running through the park, it's the kind of presence that doesn't need to announce itself, yet is immediately felt when she enters a room. She doesn't chase validation or compete for attention because her essence speaks louder than her appearance. This woman knows that true power doesn't come from aggression, but from alignment. She is graceful not because she's trying to appear perfect, because she has cultivated a deep sense of respect, emotional balance, and quiet strength. And it is this rare harmony that earns her the deepest respect. Grace is often misunderstood as passivity or softness. But real grace is a choice through the park. It's the decision to stay composed in difficult conversations, to maintain dignity when misunderstood, and to respond with maturity when provoked. Grace is the ability to carry oneself with elegance even in the face of pressure. Doesn't mean she doesn't feel anger or frustration. It means she chooses not to let those emotions overpower her principles. And when a woman consistently makes that choice, others can't help but admire her. Strength, on the other hand, is not loud. It is not about how much a woman can resist or how much she can endure in silence. True strength is seen in her boundaries, her choices, and her refusal to settle for less than what aligns with her values. She may forgive, but she never forgets the lesson. She may walk away, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. She doesn't need to argue to prove her worth. Her energy, her standards, and her actions do the talking. When grace and strength coexist, a woman becomes untouchable in the most beautiful way. She doesn't need to raise her voice because her calm commands attention. She doesn't need to force people to respect her. The park because the way she lives makes it impossible not to. Men observe this. They may not always be able to explain it, but they feel it. A woman who carries herself with grace and lives by her inner strength creates an atmosphere of calm authority. She is not unpredictable and she doesn't create unnecessary drama. She brings balance, not emotional chaos. This balance also makes her approachable. She is kind, not a pushover. She is empathetic, but not emotionally dependent. She offers understanding without abandoning her own needs. And that rare ability to connect deeply without losing herself is what truly sets her apart. In a world that often demands women to choose between being strong or being soft, she chooses both and becomes unforgettable in the process. A woman who walks in grace and strength earns deep respect not because she asks for it, but because she becomes a living example of it. She doesn't just inspire others, she elevates them. And for the men in her life, she becomes more than a companion. She becomes a standard, one that doesn't just attract admiration, but also transformation. Consistency is one of the most underrated yet profoundly respected qualities a woman can embody. In a world where emotional unpredictability has become normalized and impulsive behaviors are often mistaken for passion, running the park, a woman who lives with emotional consistency and inner balance becomes a rare and grounding force. she doesn't just bring stability to herself. She becomes a source of stability for others. Men, in particular, deeply respect a woman who is emotionally anchored because her presence offers something invaluable: peace. A consistent woman doesn't allow her mood to dictate her morals. She isn't one person when she's happy and another when she's angry. The Pak. She doesn't lash out during conflict or withdraw love or when she's disappointed. Instead, she remains steady. The Pak. That doesn't mean she suppresses her feelings. It means she processes them with awareness and communicates them with intention. Her emotions are real, but they are not reckless. She understands the difference between expressing and exploding, between feeling and losing control. And that self-awareness commands respect. This consistency also reflects in how she treats others. Running the Pak. She doesn't change based on who's watching or what she wants in the moment. Her kindness isn't conditional. Pak. Her standards don't fluctuate depending on how lonely she feels. She doesn't make promises she won't keep or offer affection she doesn't mean. What she says, she means. What she believes, she lives. She lives. That level of integrity is rare, and it creates a sense of trust that goes beyond words. In relationships, this kind of emotional steadiness is like oxygen. It creates a safe space where connection can deepen without fear of emotional backlash. A man feels at ease around a consistent woman because he knows she won't turn into a stranger the moment something doesn't go her way. He doesn't have to decode her silence or second guess her reactions. There's no walking on eggshells. There's openness, clarity, and emotional reliability. That reliability builds trust, and trust is the foundation of lasting respect. Consistency also extends into how she shows up in her own life. She's not perfect every day, but she's committed. She keeps the promises she makes to herself. She doesn't abandon her routines or self-care because someone new enters her life. Her sense of identity isn't dependent on external circumstances. Whether single or in a relationship, successful or struggling, she moves with the same quiet discipline. She doesn't allow external chaos to define her internal peace. This kind of woman doesn't need to shout to be heard or create drama to feel significant. She knows who she is and shows up as that woman again and again. That dependability becomes magnetic, because in a world that constantly changes, the woman who remains rooted in her values, balanced in her emotions, and consistent in her actions becomes a lighthouse for others. Men deeply respect this kind of woman, not because she demands it, but because she offers something both rare and real: emotional safety. Steadiness is her strength, her peace is her power, and her consistency is her silent, undeniable influence. Living a value-driven life is one of the clearest indicators of inner strength and character. A woman who aligns her actions, choices, and relationships with her core values automatically stands out in a world where people often compromise their integrity for convenience or approval. Her values act as her compass, guiding her through challenges and distractions without losing herself. It doesn't just speak about principles, she lives by them. This authenticity is not only rare, but deeply respected, especially by men who value truth, depth, and consistency in a partner. A value-driven woman knows who she is and what she stands for. Running through the Pak. She doesn't need to be told what she deserves because she already lives from a place of self-worth. Her decisions are not based on trends or opinions. They are anchored in her inner truth. Whether it's honesty, kindness, discipline, power, or loyalty, she lets those principles shape her relationships and her identity. That kind of clarity gives her power. Not power over others, power within herself. She doesn't chase people, opportunities, or attention because she knows what aligns with her will naturally stay. This woman's life reflects discipline and direction. When she says no, it's not out of fear. It's out of respect for her boundaries. When she says yes, it's not out of pressure, it's out of alignment. This level of intention makes her trustworthy. Men observe this. They may not always articulate it, but they feel it. They recognize that this is not a woman who can be swayed by sweet words or temporary excitement. She is grounded, and that grounding builds long-term respect. Even when she makes mistakes, a value-driven woman takes responsibility. She doesn't blame others or hide behind excuses. She owns her growth and stands tall in her imperfection. That humility makes her approachable. Self-honesty makes her admirable. She doesn't pretend to have it all together, but she has enough integrity to keep working on herself. Growth is steady, her learning is continuous, and her presence is both strong and sincere. Men respect her because she is clear. She doesn't send mixed signals, doesn't play emotional games, and doesn't build connections on shallow foundations. She is deep, not because she's complicated, but because she has depth of thought, purpose, and presence. Her values are not something she performs, they're something she practices. And that practice shows in how she treats people, how she handles setbacks, and how she carries herself, even when no one is watching. A value-driven life is not easy. It requires saying no to temptations, walking away from comfort, and sometimes standing alone. But this woman doesn't fear that. Embrace it. She embraces it because she knows that anything gained at the cost of her values is never worth keeping. And anything that respects her values is worth building. In the end, men deeply respect the woman who leads her life with principle, because she isn't just another connection. She becomes a standard. Her values create clarity, and that clarity creates lasting admiration. Mystery is a powerful quality, not because it hides who a woman is, but because it reveals her in layers, with intention and discernment. Through the pack, there is a quiet strength in not putting everything on display, in choosing what to share, when to share it, and with whom. A woman who embraces mystery understands that her worth is not in how much she gives away, but in how she protects her inner world. She isn't secretive to manipulate or deceive. She is discerning to preserve her energy, her truth, and her emotional safety. And that discipline creates a presence that draws deep respect. In today's world, oversharing is often mistaken for authenticity. True authenticity isn't about exposing everything. It's about being real while still having boundaries. A mysterious woman is real, not fully revealed. She allows others to know her, but not all at once. She understands that true connection grows with time, trust, consistency. This layered unveiling keeps her interactions grounded and intentional. It also allows her to observe, to listen, and to choose wisely who she invites into the deeper chambers of her heart. Men find this quality deeply intriguing, not because they enjoy chasing shadows, but because they respect a woman who doesn't hand herself over too easily. When a woman values herself enough to move slowly, to maintain boundaries, and to share from a place of strength, not need, she automatically commands respect. She's not playing hard to get. She simply understands that what is truly valuable is never rushed or recklessly offered. Mystery also means that she doesn't need external validation to feel whole. She doesn't constantly seek attention or approval, and she doesn't oversell herself. She allows her actions, her energy, and her integrity to speak. She knows that not everyone deserves access to her inner world, and she guards that space with quiet conviction. In doing so, she teaches others that knowing her is a privilege, not a right, and anything that is earned through trust is more deeply respected. This woman lives with intention. She doesn't announce every move, expose every emotion, or broadcast every achievement. She lives fully but loudly. She celebrates in private, heals in silence, and evolves in peace. Her strength isn't in being seen constantly, it's in being felt deeply. She knows when to speak and when to remain still, when to explain and when to simply walk away. That wisdom makes her unforgettable, running the pack. It's important to understand that mystery is not manipulation. It's maturity. It's the realization that not everything needs to be understood to be respected, and not every answer must be given to be valid. Parker, a mysterious woman, offers clarity through her actions but keeps her soul sacred. She's both open and private, both strong and gentle, both known and unknown. That contrast makes her magnetic. Men deeply respect this kind of woman because she doesn't need to be chased. She needs to be understood. And to understand her requires time, effort, and integrity. Integrity that alone filters out what is shallow and welcomes only what is true.